There comes a point in life when you realize not every battle deserves your voice. Not every insult deserves your reaction. Not every storm deserves your panic. Sometimes the greatest strength is not in what you say, but in what you choose not to say. Silence is not weakness, it is a weapon. It's the language of wisdom, the shield of dignity, the fire of self-rule. You see, the world is loud, people are loud, opinions fly at you like arrows. Everyone wants to push you, provoke you, make you break. But when you stand firm in silence, when you refuse to give them your energy, you rise above them. Your silence becomes your crown. It tells the world, I cannot be shaken. I will not be dragged down. I am bigger than this moment. The more silent you become, the more you start to hear your own soul. You hear God whispering. You hear your purpose calling. You hear your strength growing, and in that silence you become unstoppable, because silence is not emptiness. It is clarity, and clarity is power. Silence guards your energy from negativity, because energy is the most valuable resource you have in this life. People often think their time is the most precious thing they own. But I'll tell you the truth. It's not time that makes or breaks you. It's the way you spend your energy. You can have all the hours in the world, but if your energy is drained, your spirit is exhausted, and your focus is scattered, you can't create anything meaningful. That's why silence becomes such a shield. When you stop engaging with every little comment, every argument, every insult, you are protecting your energy like a fortress. Think about it. Negativity thrives on attention. The more you respond, the more you feed it. But when you step back and let silence do the talking, you cut off the oxygen that negativity needs to survive. People who carry bitterness, jealousy, or hatred want you to join their game. They want you to argue, shout, defend yourself, prove your worth. But silence says, I don't owe you anything. And when you learn to guard your energy this way, you realize that silence isn't just avoidance. It's discipline, it's strategy, and it's power. Negativity will always search for a home, and it loves to live inside hearts that are wide open to every distraction. If you don't guard yourself, if you don't close the door, negativity will walk in and sit down at your table uninvited. It will poison your peace, ruin your mood, and keep you restless all night. But silence is like locking the front door of your mind. It tells negativity you're not welcome here. When people throw shade at you, they want to see if you'll pick it up and wear it. But silence says that shade doesn't belong to me. You walk past it. You don't acknowledge it. And in doing so, you keep your energy clean. There's a deep kind of peace that comes when you no longer need to explain yourself to everyone. When you no longer need to fight back against every critic. You start to realize that not responding is not weakness. It's wisdom. It takes far more strength to remain silent than it does to react out of anger. And when you consistently choose silence, your energy stays intact, untouched by the chaos people try to drag you into. Negativity is like a thief that wants to rob you of joy, focus, and determination. But unlike other thieves, this one doesn't break in through your windows. It waits for you to open the door by reacting. Every time you argue with someone who doesn't deserve your attention, you are handing them your peace on a silver platter. Every time you try to defend yourself against lies or gossip, you are giving them the power they wanted. But silence cuts off that power. Silence says, I refuse to hand over what is mine. And let me tell you, your energy is yours. It's not for sale. It's not for rent. It's not up for grabs. When you embrace silence, you're telling the world, I value myself too much to waste energy on this. Negativity wants to be fed. It wants attention. It wants you to wrestle with it, but silence starves it. Silence lets it crumble under its own weight while you stand untouched, calm, and in control. That's how silence guards you. It doesn't just protect you from the noise outside, it preserves the strength inside. The moment you decide to stay silent in the face of negativity, you shift the balance of power. Suddenly, the person trying to bring you down feels powerless. They expected a reaction. They wanted a fight. They were waiting for you to lose your cool, but you gave them nothing. And in that nothing, you win. Silence is not passive. Silence is active control. It's a choice to stay rooted in your truth rather than pulled into someone else's storm. And the beautiful thing is, silence doesn't just protect your energy in that moment. It strengthens you for the battles ahead, because every time you choose silence over reaction, you're building a habit of discipline. You're training your spirit to rise above. Negativity can't stick to you when you've trained yourself to be silent. It bounces off you like arrows against armor. And slowly the world begins to see your silence as strength. They begin to notice that you are unshaken, unbothered, untouched. Your silence becomes your reputation. It becomes your shield and your weapon at the same time. Now understand this. Silence doesn't mean you ignore everything in life. It means you learn to filter what deserves your voice and what doesn't. Because not all battles are worth fighting. Some are traps designed to waste your time, drain your spirit, and distract you from your purpose. Negativity thrives in arguments, but it dies in silence. Imagine pouring water on a fire, it grows. But what happens when you don't feed it at all? It burns itself out. That's exactly what happens with negativity. When you respond with silence, people who thrive on drama can't survive without a reaction. They need your energy to fuel their chaos. But when you give them nothing, their fire dies. And in that silence, you keep your own fire alive. The fire of purpose, the fire of peace, the fire of self-respect. That's how silence becomes the most powerful guard of your energy. Doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise enough to know that not every battle is worth your breath. Silence also gives you the gift of clarity. When you refuse to react to negativity, you give yourself time to think. You step back, breathe, and see the situation for what it really is. Many times, negativity is just noise. It's not about you. It's about them. People project their pain, their bitterness, their insecurity onto others because they don't know how to handle it themselves. And if you react, you take their burden on your shoulders. But when you remain silent, you see the truth. You see that their words are reflections of their own struggles, not of your worth. Silence protects your energy by keeping you from absorbing battles that aren't yours to fight. And the more you practice this, the stronger you become. Your silence turns into wisdom. And your wisdom guards you like a wall against the poison of negativity. One of the most powerful ways silence guards your energy is by teaching you where to place your focus. When you stop pouring your energy into negativity, you suddenly find you have more energy for growth, for creativity, for love, for faith. Every time you remain silent instead of arguing, you're redirecting that energy into something that builds you up instead of tearing you down. You start to realize how much time and strength you wasted on things that didn't matter. Negativity wants to drain you, but silence teaches you to save yourself. And saving your energy means you can now invest it where it matters. In your purpose, in your relationships, in your future. Silence doesn't just protect your energy from being stolen. It multiplies your energy by redirecting it into what actually serves you. That's why people who learn the art of silence appear so strong and grounded. They are no longer scattering their energy on meaningless noise. There's also a spiritual side to silence that makes it even more powerful. Silence creates space for you to connect with your inner strength and with God. In silence, you hear whispers you miss in the noise. You hear guidance, wisdom, and peace that negativity can never give you. Silence protects your energy because it keeps you rooted in something bigger than arguments, bigger than insults, bigger than drama. It reminds you that your worth is not defined by the words of others, but by the strength within you. When you live in silence, you live above the noise. You live in a place where negativity cannot touch you. That's the true power of silence. It doesn't just protect your energy, it elevates it. It raises you to a higher level where peace becomes your foundation and strength becomes your language. Silence is not about ignoring life. It's about mastering it. It's about choosing where your energy goes, deciding what deserves your response, and understanding that your peace is too valuable to be handed over to anyone. Negativity is everywhere. It will always exist. But silence is your guard, your protector, your shield. When you embrace silence, you embrace wisdom, strength, and power. And most importantly, you preserve your energy so that it can serve the life you were meant to live. That's why silence is not just the absence of words. It's the presence of power. Silence gives you control over your emotions because emotions are powerful forces that can either build your life or break it down. Anger, frustration, sadness, and even joy are like wild horses. If you don't know how to guide them, they can run you into the ground. But when you choose silence in moments when your emotions are screaming for reaction, you take the reins back. You tell your emotions, "You will not control me, I will control you." That's the beauty of silence. It creates a pause, a sacred space between stimulus and response. In that space, you can breathe, you can think, and you can decide. Without silence, your emotions run unchecked. But with silence, you step into the role of master over your feelings. You stop being a victim of your emotions and instead you become the one in control. Every time you resist the urge to lash out or defend yourself, you strengthen your emotional discipline. And over time, that discipline becomes a shield that protects you in every area of your life. Think about the moments when you've lost control, when your anger exploded or your frustration spilled out. Didn't you feel drained afterward? Didn't you regret giving someone the power to pull you out of character? That's because when you react in the heat of emotion, you surrender control. You hand over your energy and your dignity in a single instant. But silence keeps you from handing that power away. Silence forces you to slow down, to step back, and to choose a wiser response. Silence doesn't mean you don't feel anger or hurt. It means you don't let those emotions make decisions for you. It means you've built a wall between your feelings and your actions. And in that wall, there's strength. You start to realize that silence doesn't suppress your emotions. It tames them. It channels them in a way that makes you stronger instead of weaker. Silence also teaches you patience with yourself. Emotions are often temporary storms, but when you speak or act in the middle of the storm, the damage can be permanent. Words spoken in anger can cut deeper than knives, and actions driven by frustration can destroy opportunities in seconds. But silence gives you the power to wait for the storm to pass. It gives you space to calm down before you decide what comes next. That patience is a form of emotional intelligence. It shows that you understand the difference between a moment of anger and the bigger picture of your life. Silence creates distance between the emotion and the reaction, and that distance is where wisdom lies. That's how silence helps you control your emotions, not by ignoring them, but by respecting them enough to handle them properly. When you embrace silence, you also begin to see the truth behind your emotions. Many times anger is just pain in disguise. Frustration is simply fear wearing a mask. When you remain silent instead of reacting, you create room to ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? And in asking, you uncover the real source of your emotion. Silence guards you from being tricked by the surface feelings and helps you understand the root cause. That self-awareness is priceless because once you know the root, you can heal it instead of lashing out at others. Silence gives you clarity, and clarity gives you control. When you know why you're feeling something, you don't have to be a slave to it. Instead, you use it as information, as guidance, as fuel to grow. Silence also shows the world that you are not easily shaken. People will try to push your buttons. They will test your patience. They will provoke you to see how far they can go. But when you respond with silence, you reveal that you are not controlled by outside forces. You reveal that your emotions belong to you, not to them. That kind of control commands respect. It makes people realize that they cannot play with you. They cannot manipulate you. They cannot pull you down into their chaos. Your silence becomes a boundary, and that boundary protects your emotional world. The more you practice silence, the more unshakable you become. Even in the middle of storms, you stand firm, calm, and grounded. And that calmness becomes your greatest power. In silence, you also discover peace. When you stop feeding into drama, arguments, or emotional battles, your soul becomes lighter. You start to feel free from the constant pull of reacting to everything around you. You realize that not everything needs your response. Not every fight deserves your words. Not every emotion has to be expressed immediately. Silence teaches you that your peace is worth more than proving a point. And when you choose peace over reaction, you're not only controlling your emotions, you're healing them, because silence is not emptiness. Silence is a space where your emotions can settle, where your heart can breathe, and where your mind can find rest. Another powerful thing silence does is turn your emotions into strength. Every time you hold back an angry reaction, you store energy. Every time you resist the urge to shout, argue, or complain, you keep your strength inside instead of spilling it out where it can't help you. That stored energy becomes fuel for your goals, your dreams, and your growth. Silence doesn't just control your emotions, it transforms them. Anger becomes determination, sadness becomes depth, frustration becomes focus. All because you didn't waste those emotions on meaningless battles. Instead, you use silence to channel them into something greater. That's how silence turns raw feelings into refined power. Silence also allows you to listen not just to others, but to yourself. When you stop reacting, you start hearing the messages hidden in your emotions. You realize that anger might be telling you something about your boundaries. Fear might be pointing you toward an area where you need more faith. Sadness might be calling you to slow down and heal. Silence makes you a student of your own heart. And when you learn from your emotions instead of being controlled by them, you become unbreakable because emotions will always come and go. But your ability to master them is what sets you apart. Silence gives you that mastery. It turns your emotions from storms into signals, and those signals guide you towards strength. At the end of the day, silence is the bridge between emotion and wisdom. Without silence, you live on impulse, reacting to every wave that hits you. But with silence, you rise above those waves and sail with purpose. Your emotions no longer drive you, you drive them. You use them as tools, not as masters. That's why silence is so powerful. It gives you the pause you need to reclaim control, to choose peace, to protect your dignity, and to transform your emotions into power. And once you learn to do that, nothing and no one can control you. Silence makes your presence more powerful than your words. Because true strength does not always announce itself. It radiates. You see, when you walk into a room and you don't need to shout, explain, or prove who you are, that's when people really start to notice. Your silence becomes louder than any speech you can give. Words can be twisted, they can be argued, they can be ignored. But silence demands attention. It draws people in. It makes them wonder what's on their mind. What do they know? Why are they so calm when everyone else is rushing to speak? That mystery alone creates power. Silence makes your presence felt without you having to lift a finger, without you having to raise your voice. It's not about what you say. It's about what people feel when you choose not to say anything at all. And when people feel your presence instead of just hearing your words, that's when you've truly stepped into power. There's something magnetic about silence. People are used to noise. They're used to constant talking, constant explaining, constant opinions being thrown around. But when you stay quiet, you break the pattern, you disrupt the normal, you create space that others don't know how to feel. And in that space, they can't ignore you, they feel you. Silence forces people to pay attention to your body language, your eyes, your energy. They notice details they would have missed if you were busy talking. That's the power of presence. It communicates far beyond words. When you remain silent, you let your energy do the talking. You let your confidence speak without uttering a single syllable. And people remember that. They don't always remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. Silence makes your presence unforgettable. When you think about the most powerful leaders, the most respected figures, they don't waste their breath on everything. They choose their words carefully, and often they choose silence instead. Why? Because silence gives weight to your words when you finally decide to speak. If you're always talking, always explaining, always reacting, people stop listening. But when you're silent, your presence builds anticipation. People lean in, waiting, wondering what you'll say next. And when you finally open your mouth, your words carry the weight of silence behind them. That weight makes people listen differently. They don't just hear you, they feel the meaning. Silence doesn't weaken your voice, it amplifies it. It's like striking a drum after a moment of stillness. The impact is deeper, stronger, unforgettable. That's the kind of power silence gives to your presence. Silence also protects your dignity in moments when speaking would only make things worse. In heated arguments, in moments of disrespect, silence shows that you're above the nonsense. It shows that your presence alone is enough to stand your ground. You don't need to justify, defend, or explain. Your silence says, I know who I am. I don't need to prove it to you. That's powerful because people expect you to fight back, to react, to lower yourself to their level. But when you refuse, when you stand tall in silence, they feel the weight of your presence more than they ever would through words. Silence commands respect, even from those who wanted to disrespect you. It reminds them that your presence is not something to be taken lightly. Silence also teaches people to value your voice. When you don't speak all the time, when you don't share every thought, people start paying attention when you finally do. Your silence builds scarcity, and scarcity builds value. People start to notice that when you speak, it matters. And that's when your presence becomes powerful. Not because you're loud, but because you're selective. You don't need to waste words to make an impact. Your silence makes people hungry for your perspective. And when you finally give it, they listen with respect. That's how silence transforms your presence into influence. Another thing silence does is give you the aura of mystery. People are naturally curious about what they don't understand. When you're silent, you don't give away all your thoughts, your plans, your emotions. And that mystery makes your presence magnetic. People want to know more. They want to figure you out. They want to be close enough to learn what's behind that silence. And in that curiosity, your presence grows stronger because people can't control what they don't fully understand. Silence protects your inner world while making your outer presence impossible to ignore. It's like holding a secret weapon that no one else can see, but everyone feels its power. Silence also teaches you the art of observation. While others are busy talking, you're busy noticing. You're reading the room, understanding people's intentions, seeing what others miss. And when you carry that level of awareness, your presence becomes sharper, stronger. People can feel when you see through them. When you notice without reacting, that kind of presence is intimidating. It unsettles those who try to play games because they realize they can't fool you. Your silence tells them, I see you. I may not say anything, but I know exactly what's happening. That awareness makes your presence powerful because it puts you in control of the environment. While everyone else is distracted by their own noise, there's also a spiritual depth to silence that makes your presence unshakable. Silence connects you to peace, to clarity, to something higher than the chaos around you. And when you carry that inner stillness, people feel it. They sense that you're not easily rattled, that your strength comes from within, not from outside validation. That's why your presence feels powerful in silence, because it's not just physical, it's spiritual. It's rooted in a calmness that others crave, but don't know how to reach. When you walk in silence, you walk with an authority that words can't create. And that authority makes your presence unforgettable. Silence makes your presence more powerful than your words, because it strips away the unnecessary and leaves only the essence of who you are. It reminds people that power is not about noise. It's about depth. It's about walking into a room and shifting the atmosphere without saying a word. It's about being so grounded, so secure, so aligned with your truth that your presence alone speaks louder than anything you can say. That's the kind of power silence gives you. And when you learn to embrace it, you no longer chase respect. You command it. Silence teaches patience, and patience builds strength. Because silence is the practice of holding back when everything inside you wants to react, respond, or rush ahead. It is the discipline of waiting without forcing, observing without interrupting, and holding your peace even when your emotions beg you to break it. That kind of restraint is not weakness. It's power under control. And when you practice silence long enough, you start to develop patience. You begin to understand that not everything needs to happen right away. Not every answer needs to be given immediately. Not every situation requires your reaction. Silence slows you down, gives you space to breathe, and teaches you how to let things unfold in their own time. And that patience, that ability to wait without frustration, is what gives birth to strength. Because strength is not just about fighting. It's about enduring. It's about holding steady. It's about being unmoved when the world is pushing you to break. When life throws challenges your way, silence teaches you patience by stopping you from rushing into panic. The first reaction most people have to a storm is to scream, to complain, to ask why me. But silence teaches you to sit in the storm and listen. Because storms are teachers and patience is the lesson. When you choose silence in hardship, you begin to see what others miss. You see opportunities hidden inside the problem. You see the growth waiting inside the pain. Patience teaches you that not all suffering is permanent and not all waiting is wasted. Sometimes silence and patience together are the very tools God uses to prepare you for what's next. And the strength you gain from waiting without breaking is a strength that nothing else can give you. Silence also teaches you patience in your relationships. When someone provokes you, when someone disrespects you, when someone tests your limits, silence gives you a chance to wait before reacting. And in that waiting, you gain perspective. You begin to realize that not every insult deserves your energy. Not every battle deserves your voice. Silence teaches you to let people reveal who they truly are without you trying to expose them. That kind of patience builds emotional strength because you are no longer controlled by other people's words or actions. Instead of being a puppet pulled by emotions, you become the master of your own peace, and that mastery is strength. It's the kind of strength that protects your dignity, your energy, and your sanity. Patience built through silence also strengthens your decision-making. Most mistakes happen when people rush. They react in anger. They decide in fear. They move too quickly without thinking. But silence slows you down and teaches you patience. It allows you to think before you act, to reflect before you decide. And those who can wait, those who can hold back until the right time, always end up stronger than those who rush without wisdom. Patience is like a muscle. It grows every time you resist the urge to act too quickly. And the more patient you become, the stronger your character grows. That strength makes you unshakable in moments when others fall apart. There's a kind of strength that only comes from waiting. Waiting for healing, waiting for breakthroughs, waiting for the right door to open, waiting for the storm to pass. And silence is the companion that makes that waiting possible. Without silence, waiting feels unbearable. But with silence, waiting becomes a place of peace, a place of reflection.